Welcome to Rewiring Health. This podcast is for those of you who have an eating disorder, chronic pain, or both. In this channel, we'll dive deep into inspirational stories of those who have healed from both, and also get into the mind-body connection and how we can heal the mind through the body, and also heal the body through the mind. Come and join me on this journey. In this episode, I had the pleasure of speaking with Matt Dickson. Matt is a change worker who specializes in hypnosis and operates in the St. Louis area. He employs the techniques of metaphor and somatic movement to assist his clients in achieving their goals. Matt is a certified practitioner in hypnotherapy, NLP, and life coaching, as well as a Yin Yoga Teacher. By combining the power of mindful movement and establishing a rapport with the subconscious mind, Matt believes that sustainable transformation can be achieved. Recently, he created a program for hypnosis called Making Metaphors in the Moment, which focuses on storytelling and the development of metaphors. In 2023, Matt will be presenting at the Heartland Hypnosis Conference in St. Louis and HypnoThoughts live in Las Vegas. All right, welcome to another episode of Rewiring Health. Very excited to be joined by Matt Dickson. So thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Kelly. I'm super happy to be here.
Yeah, definitely. And I know we're going to have a lot to talk about because it's just very interesting topics here. But first, I always ask everyone who comes on, could you tell me a little bit about your story and how your journey has brought you to where you are today and the people that you help today?
Well, I was it's funny. Sometimes my first thing I want to say is like, I'm, a personal trainer. I just ended my personal training career a month ago to go full time into the hypnotherapy or hypno coaching. But what brought me to where I am sitting here is as a personal trainer, I began to notice like the type of client that I was attracting was usually the type that needed to be slowed down, of all things, and I began to notice like so many of my clients just didn't like themselves, or they certainly didn't like their bodies, and then I began to see that like there's no correlation between their physicality and how they thought of themselves, which just kind of blew my mind. And I began to work mostly with building their confidence up. So that was the kind of personal trainer I was. So I got a number of people who would come in for like, I need to get in shape, for my wedding. I need to get in shape after my baby. I need, I have a trip coming up, that type of thing. But a lot of them were mostly like, I just want to change. I just want something, and we would just kind of figure it out. So I wasn't the type of trainer that like somebody would send their kid to get him ready for, football, or, get my, girl ready for, volleyball or something. But so anyway, all that transitioned into, when I became a yoga teacher in 17, I began to have better words for clients who would say things like, "Oh, I'm fat." They would pinch this much on their body and they would say, "I'm fat," and then I didn't have, great words other than like, "Oh, no, you're not." That wasn't effective, and so the language from my yoga teacher training really helped that, with yoga being the idea of sthira sukham, which is stability and ease. And then hypnotherapy took it to another level of being able to get them to mind shift, to change how they look at themselves. Is essentially like to change their own identity. And that's why I transitioned into hypnotherapy.
Yeah, I love it. I think the big message I just got from you too, and I see this with so many people, is like we try to change everything on the outside of us, including how we appear to the world, what we look like, and then we, even if we obtain those goals, we still feel empty inside because we're not whole inside. So it is so true. We have to heal from the inside out and really be accepting of who we are. And then inevitably, like, our outside changes because of that. But I think sometimes so often is that we approach it from an outside perspective, and then we say, if I finally lose this weight or I'm finally in shape, I'll then love myself. But it really is just so the opposite of, we have to like learn to value ourselves of who we authentically are, and then everything changes because of that.
Exactly. And there's also this, like, if somebody works so hard and so fast to completely change their body, then they're not prepared for that psychologically, because people start treating them differently. And it happened to me as well. I had to get I had to get in shape to pursue personal training, because when I was telling people, like, I want to become a personal trainer, it always started like this. They would just go, they would because I was 250, I'm 220 now, but I was fat, and then the reaction would either be something like, but you're fat, or they would say, like, or they would treat me like I was a D student saying I want to be an astronaut. They really and so anyway, so when I got into shape, I still was that doughy guy in my head, and people were, and I was acting like the doughy guy, so to speak, and then people were treating me like a fit person, and it messed with me. It made me uncomfortable, and I've seen that happen a lot. So it's so the inside. I mean, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, and it's so sad that there's, like, again, that stigma that the outside world puts on, is like, you're supposed to look a certain way for a certain role. And it's like, it doesn't say anything to what your knowledge base is. It didn't say anything to who you are as a person, how you could help others. Like, it's just a shame, because there's such like a surfacey level that, some people operate in, and that they don't see the deeper level of the person and how they are presenting to themselves, rather than what they are viewing them to present to the world. And it's a shame, because it's true. It's reality. I mean, that exists in the world. But again, I think as a society, we have to look deeper, and is like, what does this person have that they can serve me regardless of what they look like? And how can we just value ourselves regardless of what our outward appearance is? And I think we have a long way to go for that. But I think it's like conversations like this that are really important to understand, that we have to go within. Again, it always has to go within, so that way, when we do have changes, that we can be authentic to ourselves, and like, this is who I really am, and kind of re-identify ourselves in that way.
Self-inquiry.
Yeah. As far as your own like personal journey, for how you viewed yourself, how have you kind of overcome maybe some of those like limiting beliefs you had about yourself, or some of those like negative self-talk, to a point where you evolved to start to feel like you're being authentic and your own self, and value what you have to offer?
Well, I can give you a way to do that. The way that it happened for me is probably different. So the thing is, like, when I became a personal trainer, my identity changed. And when my identity changed, how I went about my business, changed. So when I was talking about getting in shape before, that was before I actually became a trainer, so that when I put that shirt on, the trainer, and then people start asking me trainer questions, then my identity just kind of shifted. And so there wasn't like a pivotal moment. But if you're asking, like, how does a person overcome negative self-talk, it's in my opinion, it's to constantly change it. Well, I'm sorry, challenge it. It's constantly challenge it. And with something like that's sort of in neurolinguistic programming, is called the meta model. And so like, if a person is in shape, so to speak, and their self-talk is saying you're fat, or you're so, you know, it was always fat for me. It's not the nicest word anymore, I understand, but then, you know, you talk right back to that voice, you know, what evidence do you have that I'm fat? Well, and then you have the subconscious, you know, the whatever is talking is going to come up with an answer, and it's probably going to be based on something that's completely outdated. And so the more that happens, the more that it moves the needle a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I think just bringing awareness to those messages, because so much of our life we live on autopilot. We don't even pay attention to what we're telling ourselves. And then it's like, once you start bringing awareness to it and then questioning it, it really makes such a difference in what your reality is versus what maybe your brain is telling you. So it's huge. As far as making friends with your subconscious, how would you say you can make friends with your subconscious so that it moves you in the direction that actually serves you and creates the life that you desire?
Well, I love this. I love this question. So if I ramble, you know, stop me. The going from the model that the subconscious mind is running everything. Running your behaviors, like you know, binge eating is a subconscious thing usually, and or really anything kind of compulsive is. So the thing is to talk to your subconscious mind, and so every time you make a dent into something that took a little bit of something to get to it, so to speak, then, you know, just say, thank you, subconscious mind. Yeah, good job. You know, and actually, here's the thing. So I discovered this when I got hypnotized for being late everywhere. So I was always 1 to 2 minutes late. And
not too bad.
What?
I said, that's not too bad. 1 to 2 minutes late.
Not really, but it's, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing is like the subconscious mind craves excitement.
Yeah.
And so like I could will myself to be on time. But you know what? That's not very exciting. Getting to work with plenty of time to, you know, to set up the area for my client and all that stuff, you know, when I was training, just it's boring. I'll tell you what's not boring is racing against the clock, you know, leaving just in time where I could get there on time as long as everything goes my way, boom, 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 you know, and that's exciting. And then so nobody likes to be bored, not even, you know, especially your subconscious mind. So the negative stuff is exciting if you don't reward the positive stuff. So I began to realize like, oh, okay. So every time from then on, when I was moving on time, I would say, yeah, that's right. There you go. Good job, boys. Good job, guys. Or good job to subconscious mind. Is like whatever it told me to, you know, to refer to it as. And then as soon as I would feel it, I would feel something, I would lean into it and not ignore it. Just like we ignore compliments, right? Someone says, hey, I love your, you know, I would kind of relish it. And then so as soon as I would feel it, I would say, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So that's what you do. So every time you catch yourself doing something that you're happy with, reward yourself by giving yourself an attaboy, so to speak.
Yeah.
And constantly that because you know, you'll naturally do the other thing. God, I could be so stupid. Oh, I left my keys. Oh, I forgot. Oh, I'm so dumb. You know, when you remember your keys, say, yeah, I got my keys. Look at, wow, and you get excited. And it sounds kind of silly, and it is, but the subconscious mind is almost, it's kind of childlike, and it responds to that. It's our imagination. So
yeah. It's such an important perspective shift, because we're wired to be negative, because that's how we survive and that's how we protect ourselves. And it is like, so many people, and myself included, like I've always had a hard time accepting compliments. And it's like, it almost makes you vulnerable when you're like recognizing those things that you're doing well. You're like, well, if I recognize it, then I'm not going to be as hard on myself to continue down that path. So it is so true. But yet it is absolutely important to celebrate those successes, as small as they may seem, because it is moving in that better direction. So it's a very important perspective shift. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the more that you do that, the more that the more it continues to work, and the more that you begin to see, like, if you develop that kind of relationship with your subconscious mind, you'll sleep better. Because you can, like, before I go to bed, or as I'm laying there to go to sleep, I'll say it's my conscious decision to have a deep, restful, restorative sleep.
Yeah.
And then when I wake up, and when I wake up feeling good, I'll say, all right, thank you, subconscious mind, good job. And it's just, it's kind of, it's almost second nature. I'm still working on it, but that will make the biggest difference in a person's life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because I'm a big believer in the power of the brain. And it's like, I've seen that evolution myself, where I'm like, okay, how do I use this to my advantage? But I can tell you, like, when I was in the thick of like some struggles in my life, it was like hard to see that clearly, of like, because you're in such a negative pattern with thinking, and you can't even like look outside yourself to change that. How would you recommend for somebody who's having a lot of negativity, they're very down on themselves all the time, they're like stuck in a really thick, deep rut? How would you say, just to start to do that? Like, what's a way to open yourself up to start to have that dialogue with your subconscious mind in a way that is moving you forward?
So do you, I just want to clarify. So do you mean to kind of begin to dig yourself out, so to speak?
Yeah, because I think sometimes when you're in a good place, it's easy to see things clearly, and like you go to bed and you can say, okay, I'm going to do this, and you're in like a routine. So I think like when you're consistent and you're in a good place, it's very easy to see things clearly and make those changes and try something new. But I know for many people, when you feel like you're stuck in a rut, or you're like living in a very negative energy or negative space, it's sometimes hard to see or even try something new, because you're in such a survival mode that you don't even want to try anything different, or your brain just can't even move in that direction very easily. So what would be like the smallest thing you could do just to kind of start that pattern of having a more healthy dialogue with your subconscious?
Okay. This is going to sound really, I maybe a little contrite, because everybody says it, but really is, in my opinion, the best way to get things moving. And it's the attitude of gratitude. And then, okay, so, but I do have something valuable to that maybe is not heard so much. You don't have to, if a person's really down, it's easier to say, that I don't have anything to be thankful for. That's fine. Just start saying thank you. Start saying it out loud. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then that starts it. And then the other thing is to immediately just change your body language. Just sit up straight and bring your, not so much your chin up, but your chin in and down like that. And most people are like this, they're in cervical flexion, but which is the I think they call it textures. Yeah,
you're protracted.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so if you bring your chin in and down to lengthen the back of your neck, it'll feel like you're throwing your head way back when you're really not. You're probably not even neutral. Why say you people, you know, but that changes everything because it sits you up a little straighter. And immediately change your body language and just start saying thank you. And then when you change your body language, you change how I believe the body is a subconscious mind, actually. So it prepares for different feelings, and then you may begin to see something you're thankful for. So sit up straight and start saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. Oh, I'm here in my bare feet. That means I have heat. Thank you. I've got running water. Thank you. And then it's movement. And like in yoga, the first part of balance is thinking about lifting one foot up. If you're going to lift, if you say like lift your knee, your right knee, parallel to your hip. In yoga, we say if it's going to be your right, you would say begin to get heavy in your left foot. Begin to feel your right foot become a little bit lighter. And even though nothing happens in space, the body leans just so slightly. And that's still movement. That's still movement. And just keep doing that until something happens. And then acknowledge that it's happening. And then take a break. If maybe it doesn't all get done in one day, but meet yourself where you are.
Yeah, I mean, all that, I love that, because I agree. The physiology, you have to move through that, because sometimes when your head's not in the place and you can't change the thoughts, use the physiology to then be that catalyst for change. I think that's a huge point there. And I think people sometimes forget that. It's like, oh, our body and our mind are completely interconnected. I mean, it's all one unit. So it's like our body's always sending signals to our brain, and our brain's always sending signals to our body. So if we can't change the thoughts immediately, then let's try moving through the body, and then eventually it kind of opens up the gates for more change. So I think it's a great point to make there.
So you were a college athlete, right?
I was, yeah.
Did lacrosse?
Field hockey.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. So
Yep.
like when you were standing there holding your stick, didn't you just feel like a warrior?
Yeah.
I bet you
I
did,
went hard on that field. Absolutely. But yeah, 100%. Yeah. I'm like, I was like, bring it on. Let's go. It's like, you want to bring on that challenge, but 100%. It's like, yeah, when you're an athlete, you have that stance and you have that like drive. And it's like, yeah, there's just that energy that you have about yourself, just standing there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And it's like, you talk about like, you can get into like that power pose, you think about like the most confident, powerful person, like how do they stand, and versus like someone you think that, if you think of how you're defeated and you're sad, like think about how your posture changes. It completely changes. So I think it's a great point you made how we can just change everything just by changing our physiology in the smallest way possible, recognizing that and then celebrating it and moving forward as you kind of take that action. Yeah. And I know you talked about yoga. I would love to hear, because I know you had discussed this before, but can you talk about how you combined yin yoga and hypnosis? Because I haven't heard of that before, and I would just love to hear how you've integrated that and how you've seen that help people, and just a combination of those, because again, I love the mind and body connection there.
Well, yin yoga is a practice that it's based on 3 principles. One is finding your edge, and the second one is stillness, and the third one is time. And so finding your edge would be like, imagine like if I'm sitting with my legs apart, if I lean forward, if I just sit like this, I'm not at my edge. I can sit like this for a long time. If I lean really, really, really far forward, then I'm like, oh, I'm good for about an hour. I'm good for about like a minute, maybe, and then so that's the edge right before something, could bad could happen. And then you back off from there and back off from there, and to where you're feeling something, but you can stay there for a long time. And so a yin practice, a posture could be held for anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes. And the second part is stillness. You stay there, and the third part is time for a long time. And then it tends to be very relaxing, at least the way that I teach it. So the yoga language that I learned in yoga teacher training is the dynamic yoga method, and the languaging is ironically free of metaphor, which I'm all about metaphor, but it's free of metaphor because it keeps the person in their body, and you speak directly to the person, to the student. And the yoga languaging tends to be kind of relaxing, and what I noticed was like, oh, this is just like the hypnotic induction, the walk down the spiral staircase, picture, and so I had one of my regular yoga students had gotten a private yin session with me, and I said, like, what needs attention? What would you like stretched out? And she's like, I don't even know. I've got a terrible headache. I just, I said, okay. I said, well, we'll go over, we'll do everything. And so as I had been, directing, cueing her as a yoga teacher, I could see in her face, like she was really relaxed, and then I could see her, she just was kind of like this, and then I said, oh, she's in trance. Wow. Okay. So I said, yeah, and as you feel the space being created in your hips, you can feel the pain leave your body, and I started just kind of, relax a little bit more. And I had when I had first got trained as a hypnotist, she was somebody that one of my very first people. And so I know her well, and I knew she's trancing. And so they just kept giving suggestions for the headache to go away, and then at the end of it, she didn't have a headache anymore. So I thought, gosh, I'm onto something. So that I started doing in-person workshops where like the focus would be on like self-confidence, or getting past FOMO, and setting boundaries and things like that. Anxiety. I just did one with anxiety. It was big. It sold out that particular run, but it's such a good combination because the person's already relaxed. And there's this thing called fractionation. So like as a person goes into trance, they go kind of deep, and then if they come out a little bit, then they can go a little bit deeper, and then a little bit deeper, and a little bit deeper. And every time you in the yin hypnosis session, every time a person changes to a different posture, they come out a little bit, and then they sink back in, and it's just really powerful.
Yeah, you can see how those would go hand in hand, especially when you talk about coming out and then going even deeper. So it's like the changing in the poses, and then changing your brain waves to meet that. That's amazing. Yeah. Is that because I know I talked to you before, I saw one of your success stories was a woman who overcame eating Doritos, binging on Doritos. Is that how you helped that woman, or was that a different practice that you used with her?
That was completely different. And
Okay.
But so that was an NLP technique, neuro-linguistic programming, called map across like to dislike. And it was one of those things when I learned in training, I thought, there's no way this works.
Mhm.
You know, it's just too simple. And
Mhm.
it worked on me for crispy cookies.
Mhm.
And because okay, so the long and short of it is our representation systems, like our visual, auditory, and kinesthetic are our main three, and then there's gustatory, and then there's submodalities. So like the so mapping something from like to dislike. So for her it was Doritos to something, I think it was Pringles, if I remember right. So you map it over to something that they either don't like or they're completely neutral about. So do you have a picture of the Doritos in your mind? Yes. Where is it? It's right in front of me. Okay. Is it large or small? It's large. You know, is it color or black and white? It's in color. Is it steady, or is it, you know, moving? It's steady. And then you go down the other systems, and like Pringles. Do you have a picture of your mind? Yes. Well, where is it? It's up to the upper right hand corner. Is it small or large? Is small? Is it black or white or color? It's black or white. You know, is it moving or is it steady? It's steady. And then you just have them move the Doritos over to the corner, and then, you know, to the map across. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So does she not like Pringles? Is that what it was? Like was it an association thing? Or
I don't remember. No, she doesn't particularly like Pringles, but
so was it like associating Doritos to something that you don't like and kind of moving it in that direction? Is that, just so I understand you right?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, if you were to think of Pringles, like, do you have a picture in your mind?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So where's the picture?
Kind of like right in front of me. I'm like picturing the
Okay.
container. Yeah.
Okay. So, now, think about how you think of Doritos.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if you like them or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of get into that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And is that picture large or small?
I'd say large.
Okay. Shrink it down
Mm-hmm.
and then move it off to the side.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did that change anything on how you felt about them?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't really have I'm not like a lover of Doritos. I'm not like a hater of Doritos. They're kind of neutral for me. So I don't know. Yeah.
Well, if you're neutral, if it moved, maybe it moved just a teeny bit,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but if it's something that you feel really strongly about,
Mm-hmm.
then, and I didn't map it across anything in particular,
Yeah.
but that's how that works. It's just literally you change. It's not so much reassociating, I suppose it is, but it's just changing how it represents to you.
So is it that typically things that you desire a lot, are they usually like larger in your brain? Like, do you represent them larger, and like
It could be different for
it's
everybody.
different for everybody? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but it's
Yeah.
just changing your representation personally within yourself. So if like I said it was in front of me and then you move off to the side, now the representation is different. I said it was large, but you said to make it small. So then that changes it too. So is that
Mhm.
just changing however they present it as, and then they change that representation in their brain? Is that how it is?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
And then, and then you kind of, you retest, maybe you do it again.
Mhm.
And I here, so you know those Tate's Bake Shop cookies?
Mhm. Yeah, those are good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love crispy cookies with
Mhm.
coffee, you know, and like when I would go shopping, if I thought to myself, all right, I'm getting some,
Mhm.
you know, and I might be at Whole Foods or something, and I would buy, you know, it wouldn't necessarily be Taste, like whatever brand, I would buy it based on how big the package was.
Mhm.
And I would total the calories up.
Mhm.
This entire package has 2,800 calories. This entire package has 1,400 calories. These are getting eaten within the next 6-7 hours. So I'm going to decide, do I consume 2,800 or I consume 1,400? And that's how I would decide which package to buy, because I didn't have any control over them. And then so when we partnered up in training, that was a thing that I did. And I literally bought a package of Tate's cookies, and I looked at them, I smelled them, I opened them up, I did I put one in my mouth, and I said to myself, if I can spit this out, this worked. And I spit it out, and it didn't bother me.
Interesting.
So yeah. So it really, really, really does work. It sounds a little nutty, but that's NLP. It's NLP is kind of like waking hypnosis.
Interesting. I know, I'm sure it varies for everyone, but how long did it take you to not feel like you had no control over the crispy cookies?
Instant.
Instant. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about the woman that you helped with the Doritos?
Instant.
Very interesting. Yeah. Because I would imagine, I mean, I've been open about my eating disorder, but that was part of my thing too, is I would just eat excessively, and then I would exercise excessively. And it was just there was no, I just went to town on everything, so it was just a lot. So it's just so interesting to me, because I know, for anyone who's experienced any kind of disordered eating, it's more than just you eat a big Thanksgiving dinner. It's you literally can't stop yourself. There's just a drive towards eating this that you can't control. And so it's just so interesting to me, because I know that feeling, and I'm wow, to have that where you feel you don't have to eat the entire package, because that's how I felt. And it's there was no stopping that. So it's so interesting to be able to change that in your brain so that you don't have that unbridled desire to continue to do that.
Very Kelly, can I share something with my favorite candy is peanut M&Ms. And one year for Christmas, between my wife and friends, I got 10 pounds.
Oh my gosh, peanut M&Ms. Oh my gosh.
Well, then various, know, and I was like Scrooge McDuck, I was
oh yeah, swimming in the
and I put a bunch in the freezer, and I ate so many that I wore the skin off the roof of my mouth.
Oh wow. Yeah,
and I'm not kidding. And then of course I wasn't enjoying them anymore, but I kept eating them. And then I kept moving them around to some place to chew that it didn't, that didn't hurt. And then I would I'd sit there, and I'd eat one, and I go, ow, and my wife was like, why don't you just stop eating them? I can't.
Yeah.
But I know that it's a terrible feeling, but the map across won't work for binge eating. It has to be very specific.
So specific foods.
Yeah.
Okay.
But hypnosis works for binge eating.
Yeah. It's so interesting, because I mean, just again, the power of the brain, it is so profound. It's our biggest tool. And it's unfortunate that I think, I always compare our brains almost to Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz. We always have this power, but we don't always know how to use it. She had her shoes the whole time. She didn't know how to use it to get home. And it's once you know how to use your brain to move you in the direction that you desire, it's a game changer. So I think it's just amazing how you can use it in so many different ways to achieve so many different goals that you have for yourself. It really is. And I'm a high believer in that as well. So,
so did I read about you that you had chronic back pain?
I did. Yeah. Following my eating disorder.
And did you, did you use Dr. Sarno's method, or?
It's funny. I wasn't even aware of that at the time. I just really went into just nervous system regulation, which I know is what he talks about, but I wasn't aware of his book until after I had already healed from the back pain. But
Oh,
I very much realized because I've talked about I went through all like the orthopedic stuff, like stretching, strengthening, hot pack, cold pack. I had manipulation stunts, man, and just nothing ever seemed to relieve the pain. And it really was only once I started realizing it was in my brain, it was all the emotional trauma from the eating disorder I hadn't worked through, that was when I started to experience relief. But that's why I'm a huge believer in the ability to rewire our brains for health, because I've seen it work for me and I've seen it work for many people.
and you did that all on your own?
Well, yeah, I had a good understanding of the nervous system after coming out of physical therapy school, because we do a whole nervous system unit.
Yeah.
And so when I understood the orthopedic, I mean, I'm a headstrong person. So if something doesn't work, I'm going to figure out a different way. So when the
Right.
orthopedic stuff, and this is years, this wasn't like an overnight thing. It took me years. That orthopedic stuff wasn't working. My husband's a physical therapist too. So like, he helped me a lot of those things. Didn't work. And then I watched the documentary Heal. I don't know if you're aware of that one.
I
It's
don't
on
think so.
Netflix, but it really talks about the power of the mind to heal. And the scenarios they talked about were situations that were even far more complex than my own. And I was just so intrigued by it that I like dove in, and I'm like, okay, let me learn everything I can about this. And with my understanding of the nervous system from physical therapy school, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. This makes a lot of sense. I started applying it to myself. I got a little bit of relief, and I'm like, that's all I needed. I just needed a little bit of change. And I'm like, this is it, and then
Wow.
took it and ran with it. So it was pretty profound. But yeah, I did my, yoga, but yoga in a way that like it fit me, so it wasn't like high intensity. I breath work. I did a lot of breath work. I read everything I could to change my mindset on it so that I wasn't feeling like I was getting into like catastrophizing beliefs.
Yeah.
Get away from the negativity of how I was thinking. Like I changed everything and just made all these little changes, and I don't have any back pain anymore. So it's, yeah. But so that's why I'm such a huge believer. And I love what you do too, because I so believe in healing from the inside out, and what you do as well. It's so important to have that perspective.
One of the most fascinating things about Dr. Sarno that I learned was, I think it was a documentary that I saw, but like the long and short of it is like, so he came up with like, I don't know, was a 10-week or 6 weeks something or other, and that still included pain medication if needed, and if I remember right in the documentary, it was the real analytical people that, he had a very high 90s success rate, but the really analytical people, it took them a while to get on board. But the wooey people, so to speak, were pretty much like after the introduction, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, just and then
Yeah. I've read
so interesting.
Yeah, his book is really interesting because it talks about all these, chronic conditions and how you can use the brain to heal, and why it is involved with the nervous system. So it really is profound, and it's true, because I think the hard thing is that with research, so if anyone knows about like research, this is how, everything comes about, but it takes almost like 20 years before you do the research until it becomes like well-known information out in the world. So that's why it's like when you have these techniques and these things that on case study basis work really well, and people have reported these amazing things, but there aren't always the data to prove it, because it takes such a long, tedious process to do that, and a lot of money. And sometimes a lot of these things don't have the funding like pharmaceuticals do, and like some of these quicker, quote fixes that they have for chronic pain. So that's why sometimes you hear so much about these medications and pharmaceuticals, because they're very profitable and they have a lot of backing for research, and it's very easy. You either take a pill or you don't. It's easy to do the placebo and not. But a lot of like his techniques and what he talks about, it's just more difficult to test and
quantify.
And so, but it doesn't make it any less real, and doesn't make it any less beneficial. And I love his book was, it just validated everything that I had learned separate from that. And I totally believe in that ability to heal.
I had a podcast, I'd want to talk to you.
Yeah. It's just amazing. And that's why I love, talking like guests like you, everyone who like just has seen this work, and you see the power of the brain. And just, it's like every time, you've taught me things about, NLP and like using that, like I never heard some of those things that you've talked about. So I think, again, there's so many dimensions of the brain that you can use to promote healing in all different directions. And that's the beauty of it. So it's just amazing.
Yeah, I haven't gotten into pain management yet with hypnotherapy. It's something I'm going to look more into. There's one hypnotist in particular. His name's Stephen Blake, and I heard him on a podcast. Mm-hmm. And the long and short of it was, what he said was, he kind of puts the person in a trance, and then he asks their subconscious mind, kind of, with his own subconscious mind, so to speak, like, and this is for chronic pain, could you just let her, could you let them, could you just go away or find something else to do, right? And that was like a completely oversimplified part of what he said, but that's kind of how I retained it. And one of my personal training clients, she's had so many surgeries for so many different things, and she's young, barely 30, and in chronic pain. But the pain would, it would ebb and flow, it would come and go, and she would be in pain, like in a training session, but then she'd play volleyball. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it's funny, I just heard the podcast the day before, and I said, well, why don't you just relax for a second? Let's try something. So I did like a progressive type of relaxation with her, and then so it was in her shoulder blades, and I kind of sort of like put my hands on her shoulder blades for a moment, and I, in my mind, I asked her subconscious mind, like, can you maybe just take this pain from a 10 down to a 1? Can you do that? Just, and I don't remember exactly like what I was saying. I was really in my in my woo-wee space, so to speak. And it worked. And then the owner of the gym, she had a big knot that her husband was trying to rub out, and I was like, I'm on fire, so I said, hey, can I take a crack at it? And it's like, sure. So I just kind of sets up, I felt the intention of releasing that, and the intention of like asking, could you go ahead and release that, because it's not serving a purpose. Mm-hmm. And it worked. And so when I got Reiki attuned, I began to think like, maybe that's Reiki, maybe that's what I just did. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but whether you think it's all in the mind, or you think it's this cosmic healing energy that we can tune into, it doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. It's what you believe that matters. Mm-hmm. And for my client, it didn't fix her chronic pain forever. It probably just did for that day, or just for that moment. But she was really good after that moment. But there's so much that the mind, and really like what we believe can be done. Like if we believe it, we really can. I hate to say achieve it, because it's such a common, but that it really is true. Mm-hmm. It can move in that direction. If it moves in that direction, it can keep moving. If it may take a little patience,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I agree. I think the biggest thing with belief is just opening your mind up to a different possibility. And I think that's the thing with a lot of times people who have experienced chronic pain is that they have, their brain is so wired to be predictable. It's like, this is the response that I give you every single time. But it's like, once you allow the brain just to open up to like, let me try this, see how this works. Well, how do I feel? You start opening up yourself to curiosity again.
Mhm.
And curiosity is really the way that we can rewire our brains for health, is just be
Yeah.
curious to try something different and allow your brain to move in that direction. I think that's where like that belief comes in. It's like, your brain will believe based off of evidence. So if you allow yourself to open up yourself to some kind of different possibility, you get some level of evidence that there was a change. Now you start breaking the cycle, because that's what chronic pain is. It's a vicious cycle. It's like, I do this, I get this response, I get more pain. I do this, I get this response, I get more pain. And then now when you allow the cycle to be broken, you're giving your brain a different possibility, and it starts rewiring to be accepting of that. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's like when it's so true. You talk about belief, you have to be open to something in order for it to work. So it is whatever that is for you and for whoever's listening. It's like, you have to be open to some kind of different possibility, and then allow yourself to see the changes that are made because of that.
It's also exciting to be in pain. And it's, the person is no longer suffering of chronic pain, that can mess with their identity. Because if I'm not this person anymore, then who am I? And that could also, I'm sure of it, is this thing that is something that leaves people, from taking those steps. Like that map across like to dislike is really successful. But I've had and it's fast and quick. And I've offered say, there's one person in particular. I was like, would you like to be free of cheese? Eat cheese all, and they don't want to. They like, no, I love cheese, and I don't care that I overeat it. I mean, it sucks, but not everybody wants to be healed. Some people, there's a secondary gain, and the gain could just be the excitement of the subconscious mind, being in pain, because it's way more exciting than being neutral.
Yeah. And I think that also too, going off of that, like the brain wires for predictability, efficiency, and the known. And anything that's unknown, whether I don't think anybody wishes chronic pain upon themselves. No one wants to live in chronic pain. No one wants that. But the brain says, I know this. I've known this for 20 years. Like I'm more afraid to discover something different. So it has a natural resistance and aversion to trying anything, because this is known. And I think, like you said, I think that is a lot of subconscious. It's not that somebody says, yes, I choose to be in pain every day, this is what I want. I think it is that the brain naturally,
subconscious.
Yeah, it is. It naturally kind of has an aversion to doing anything different, because it feels, quote, safe in that way, because it knows exactly how everything is going to go. So it's like when you open up a different possibility, it's unknown, and then it's that fear that comes into the unknown, even though it could be a good direction of unknown. So it's amazing. That's why the brain is so complex. It's like we have our conscious brain that we're trying to move in the direction that helps us. We have the subconscious brain, which is the bigger beast, and then we have the external world that's playing a role in that, and all these stigmas and everything else that goes around, any kind of thing that we want to change in our life, especially chronic pain. There's a lot of stigmas around that. And so you're trying to get all those pieces to work. And I think so many times, again, off of anything that we're trying to do, we try to change things externally. So we wish for things to be different, or, and then we don't look inside. But so I think we get overwhelmed very easily when we're trying to change stuff outside of us. But the minute we can change what we have control over, which is our brain and our subconscious, that's really when we start empowering ourselves to realize that once we change, then everything is a mirror in our external environment. When we're in a better place, the world starts to mirror that. And I think that's the real beauty of it. So it seems complex, but if you start inside, it's not as hard.
You can become your own hypnotist.
Yeah, really. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have that point of view where you can allow yourself, and it's like you just need that one little foothold, and now you can start digging yourself out of
Mhm.
that deep hole. And that's the amazing thing about it. Well,
Yep.
Matt, I could talk, I feel like I could talk all day. But I just want to kind of wrap this up. But for anyone who wanted to connect with you and work with you, where can they find you? What's the best place?
Um, you can just search my name on Facebook. And I'm easy to find on TikTok. I'm the Hypnotic Yogi, and that'll link you to pretty much everything. And that so it's MATT, or you can email me if you like. I would love that as well, as MDICKSON28 @Yahoo. But just search my name, and I'm easy to find.
Great. Yeah. And I'll have everything in the show notes for anyone listening. So that way you can link right to it. So, but thank you very much for everything. I really enjoyed this conversation. Like I
Yeah, me
said, like
too.
so much to talk about here and unravel, but I'm hoping for anyone listening, you can take just a golden nugget from this and then use it as your stepping stone to move your life forward. So thank you. And thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Kelly. This
Yeah.
has been great. I've really enjoyed it.
Great.
Thank you.
Yes, me too. Thanks again. Yeah. And for everyone listening, please again, subscribe to the podcast, leave a review. And if you have any questions for us, we would love to hear them and answer anything that you have there. So thanks again for spending your precious time to listen to Rewiring Health.
Thank you for spending your precious time to listen to this episode of Rewiring Health. My mission is to inspire hope and healing through science-backed practices. If you found value in this, please share with 3 people and leave a review. By doing so, this message can be spread to those who need to hear it most. Also, to get updates on the most recent episodes, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for being part of this community, and I am forever grateful for you.